are a much larger version of this. This is known as a steel leg hold trap. These serrated teeth here are known as the bone crusher. And unfortunately, even though it is outlawed in over 100 countries, which is more than half the world, guys, it is legal in 42 of our states still, and unfortunately 15 of those states still do allow these serrated teeth. This trap here exerts about 90 pounds per square inch of pressure, and they do not discriminate. About 4 to 5 million animals per year get caught in these traps, and 76% of the time it is not the intended animal that the trapper was trying to target. 24% of the time it is. So it's very, very rare. And in a lot of these states with lower letter grades between like C and S, you can find any trap like this within 6 feet off of a public hiking trail. There's very, very little regulation for these. In fact, you don't have to have very much knowledge at all to purchase and use them. Anyone in most any of these states, you could walk into any shop and buy this with no hunting or trapping experience at all and place it wherever you want. Unfortunately for the animal though, it is very, very, very painful to get trapped in one of these, and oftentimes some animals will even chew off their own limbs to escape. The trapper is not required in most states to check these traps for anywhere from 2 days to up to 3 weeks. So it's a lot of times the animal could just be left there suffering. And unfortunately, the trapper has more rights than the animals, and more rights than we do. So if you see an animal trapped in one of these, even an endangered bald eagle, guys, and you get caught tampering with one of these traps, there often are cameras on them, you can actually face hefty fines and even some jail time just for tampering with the trap. And yes, I'm sure you guys are thinking, because a dog leash is around 6 feet long on average, so it is very, very common that your domesticated pet will get trapped in this, and even sometimes your kids. Of course, if your kid or your pet gets trapped in this, obviously let them go. But if you see another animal trapped in one of these, unfortunately, there's not very much that you can do about it. But what we can do is we can talk to our congressman, or go to bornforusa.org. They actually are the site that ranked each of these states by letter grade and collected the data for that. And they also have some really great petitions that you guys can sign for any of these, a number of these issues, and they have great information for you guys to follow up on. So if you're feeling like this is something that kind of bothers you, they're probably oh no,
still got out.
All right. He's like, I know what's coming. So these are our red foxes, guys. That's Miss Scarlet over there. We do have her mate in there, Mr. Rhett. Now, red foxes are the most, she's like, are you kidding me? Give me more. Red foxes are the most prevalent land omnivore. You can find them at almost any elevation. The males are known as dogs, females are known as vixens. Their babies are kits, and their tails are known as a brush. Now, I'm sure you guys probably noticed a little bit of a skunky smell coming in here, maybe. So that actually, if we don't have skunks here, you probably wouldn't be able to find them at this elevation. Those are actually our foxes. They do share similar scent glands to the skunk, and it comes out in their urine. She's like, where's more? All right. So our red foxes can get up to around 24 pounds, and they can be somewhat territorial. As you notice here, our Sky Fox Freeway there, it's about 13 feet tall, 16 feet long. It's the longest wood-covered bridge in the state of Colorado. It is in the Historical Society. We are kind of proud of that fact. As you can tell, it is blocked off at the end over there. That is because over there we have the enclosure of our resident swift fox. Swift foxes are an endangered species of fox. They are the second smallest land canid in the world, next to the fennec fox. They can get anywhere from 3 to 6 pounds in size, and they can get up to about roughly 30 miles per hour when they're running. So they are very, very fast. Dusty over there is part of our species survival program. Part of the reason why we do have it blocked off at the end there, guys, sorry, I know I didn't explain that, is because our red foxes, like I said, are very territorial, and if they could go over there, they would most definitely bully Dusty. So we keep that blocked off for him. So, like I mentioned, he's part of our species survival program. Unfortunately, he did lose his mate recently. So we are looking for another pretty little fox for him. So if you see a nice girl fox on hotfoxes.com, please let us know. We would be forever grateful. Now over here, if you go ahead and take a look at our enclosure back there, I'm sure that you guys might have noticed our little fox up there. She's sitting on top of the, you see that little black head? So she is a red fox, actually. If anybody has problems with that, they probably understand. So this Arctic foxfur pelt. Those tend to go for much more money. So we are very, very happy to have Zoe here, Beaver Forever Home. Now I'll go ahead and turn you guys over to Kirk, and he's going to go over some rules with you before we continue.
Alright, so first of all, folks, if you do have a cell phone on, you have to put it on silent or vibrate for the remainder of the tour for me. You can take all the pictures you want, your phone, with your cameras. If anybody has a camera that has, how big is the lens on that camera?
It's 55, they already checked it.
Yeah, so nothing above 70 millimeters allowed on the tour. You can take pictures, videos, that's fine. But I do draw attention to this 3-bar barrier. This is a visual barrier only. Needs to look at, not to touch. It is very old. We are going to replace it later on this year. Some of the bars pop out, so I don't want anybody leaning out, falling down and getting hurt. So don't even rest your feet down. Just stay about a foot back from it at all times for me. Also, everything you have has to stand on your side of the barrier. Human nature doesn't want to take pictures like this. We cannot allow that. Some places on the tour will be so close to the wolves. If I stand here, hold my hand out, it would be inside their enclosure. Our wolves are notorious kleptomaniacs. They'll steal anything presented them: hats, masks, phones, cameras, you name it. They move very fast. You'll never see it happen, and you'll never ever get that item back. Once it's a wolf for life. Now, if it's an electronic device, you've lost something very expensive. We have a very good chance of losing an animal over that because they're going to probably want to chew that up. The batteries inside those are lithium ion and they're poisonous. So please keep everything on your side of the barrier. I also said we're going to stay as a wolf pack today, so please don't go ahead, don't lag behind. Just stay at the enclosure that Julia or myself is at all times. If you do need to come back to the center for any reason, use the bathroom, get a drink of water, make a phone call, you just don't feel well, whatever it is, let me know right away. I will radio for a guy to come down to escort you back to the center. You must be escorted at all times on the trail for your safety and the safety of our animals. Once you're done here, they will escort you down to rejoin the tour. And one very important rule here is no one but myself or Julie is allowed to throw anything to the enclosures. If a guest throws something to the enclosure, the tour ends for everyone right then and there. Now bring everybody back here. We got to investigate what they threw, why they threw it. Again, it's for safety of our animals. All right, let's go meet some wolves. Head right down that way.
Did you hear that? Yes.
It started to snow.
He's actually a British Columbian tundra wolf. So they were actually almost hunted to extinction in 2005, and their only rangeland now is around the British Columbian of Vancouver Island. Now, gray wolves in general can be anywhere from between, male gray wolves in general can be anywhere from between 70 to 100 pounds in weight. Females anywhere from between 70 to, or 100 to 130 pounds. 70 to 130 pounds. The females can be anywhere from between 50 to 100. Now, British Columbian tundra wolves are a subspecies of the gray wolf. So they're a little bit of a larger subspecies with slight differences. As you can tell, Mr. Kenai has slightly smaller ears. That is to help with that polar habitat. Now, British Columbian tundra wolves can get up to anywhere between 80 and 150 pounds. Mr. Kenai here is around 105 pounds. He's got a pretty thick fur coat for the region that he comes from. All wolves are anywhere from 5 to 6 feet long from tip of the tail to tip of the nose. So they can get kind of tall. Big stretch for Mr. Kenai. Does the guys don't want to sleep? They're pretty lazy. So as you can tell, we only have them paired up. So we have gotten the question before of why do we not have our wolves in a full pack. Now, part of the reason for that is our enclosures are only so big, and in the wild, wolves have a very, very large range that they can cover. So they could be covering anywhere from 100 miles to 1,000 miles in terms of what their rangeland looks like. And like almost any family, wolves will also get into squabbles, just like I would get into a fight with my sister maybe every now and then. But out there, they've got all of that space to run around and cool their heads if they get upset at each other. Here, however, we only have so much space to house them in. So our enclosures, while they're fairly sized, it's really better for them in pairs. Since they are social animals, we do pair them up. And we don't make our wolves do anything that they don't want to do, so we have a process of pairing and kind of allowing them to choose their companions. And we do have a matchmaking enclosure back there that you guys will see towards the end of the tour, and we'll show you. These guys actually are our quickest mated pair, or quickest bonded companionship that we have here. So before we put them together, they actually got together in as quick as a month. Usually they'll be on either side of the enclosure looking at each other, and we'll be monitoring them until we feel that they get along well enough to maybe put them in the enclosure together. All right. Does anybody have any more questions about Kenai and Makui? Yeah?
I'm just wondering why the top of him is mainly black.
Yeah, so like I said, he is a subspecies of the gray wolf, and wolves can actually come in many different colors in nature. This is just generally the fur that a British Columbian tundra wolf will have, but they can come in many, many different colors. But that's a very good question. No, not at the moment. We're not a breeding facility. However, most of the wolves that we have here were rescued from either zoos or other sanctuaries, and most of them have been around people for most of their lives. So they're still wild animals, but they are socialized to be around people. Most of the wolves that we have here were pups when we originally got them. But good question, yeah. Any other questions?
God
Yeah,
bless
these guys, I believe they're about to turn 8 in the spring, right, Kurt? Yeah, so they're like 7 right now. So in the wild, usually wolves will live anywhere from like about 3 to 6 years typically in the wild, and then in captivity they can live up to as long as like 16 years old. We did have a wolf pass away a little recently this year who was about 16 years old. Yeah. So in captivity they have a much greater chance of surviving for longer. All right, let's go ahead and meet our next wolf.
He's like. This is a pretty one. Ooh.
So here we have Mr. Miranda. Lisa is one of our Arctic wolves here. Sometimes people ask about his little thick nose. That actually is not common with most wolves. He actually was born, or Arctic wolves are a subspecies of the gray wolf, if anyone's wondering. He actually was born all white, which is completely uncommon. Wolf pups tend to be born in spring, and they're all darker colors, so they're brown, black, gray. Those are the typical colors you'll find with wolf pups. He was born all white, that is not common, and his nose eventually became pink, which is just a genetic abnormality that he has. But he's still a wonderful companion here to our Miss Arenda. Now, Arctic wolves, their rangeland tends to be around northern parts of North America, just like Alaska, Canada, Iceland, Greenland, and other parts of northern Europe. They have a range of foods that they eat, so Arctic lemming, Arctic hare, seals, caribou, and even they take down game as big as as muskox as well. If anybody knows how big muskox can get, they can get pretty big. Unfortunately, however, Arctic wolves really kind of are facing a lot of difficulty nowadays due to climate change and human intervention, as well as oil and gas drilling, the oil and gas industry. A lot of their habitat is being reduced. They have far fewer resources, and it's actually put them in much more competition with other predators that they would not normally have to be competing as much for certain resources for, so such as polar bears primarily. And a lot of the time, a lot of their habitats right now have been largely reduced, so that's also kind of added some strain to their subspecies as well. Now this Arenda here is another example of what a typical river coat on a gray wolf would look like. Miss Arenda actually used to be one of our ambassador wolves. An ambassador wolf is a wolf that basically is used to help educate people. When she was younger, we used to be able to bring her out to meet large groups of people. And actually, she used to meet groups of people as large as around 100 in one time, which for a wolf is a pretty big deal. She actually self-retired at around 2 years old. So that's like retiring at 18 for us. So she's living a sweet life here, like I said. We don't make our wolves do anything that they don't want to do. She does still love to meet people inside of her enclosure, however, she's happy to, but it's on her own ground and her own terms. Part of the reason that she self-retired at 2 actually is because that is around the age that wolves sexually and mentally mature. And they develop something known as neophobia, or they become neophobic, which means that they grow a fear of anything new, and in some cases, even things that they used to be comfortable with, they might not be comfortable with anymore. This is a trait that you see actually in a different purchase canids as well as coyotes, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So Miss Arenda is happily self-retired. However, she is still trying to perfect the kiss. She has not quite perfected it yet. She loves to give lots of kisses. She'll start giving you 1, 2, 3 licks maybe, but then she'll open her mouth up wide. You'll see all 42 of her beautiful teeth, and she'll try to give you open mouth kisses because she just wants to give as much love as she can. It can be a little intimidating seeing those 42 teeth on a wolf, but I swear she's just the most lovable girl in the world, and she just wants to give all of her love to everyone. So we're trying to teach her how to kiss, but you know, she's getting there. Any questions about these two guys? All right, great. We'll move on. In front of this empty enclosure over here. No, we are actually, we do actually currently have one other coyote in a different part of the sanctuary right now. We have not yet paired her up. We did try to pair her up with one of our coy dogs, Ringo, who is 87.5% coyote and 12% domesticated dog. But unfortunately, that is way too much dog for Miss Yodi because she does not like him. So we are still waiting to find a perfect mate for her. Hopefully by spring we'll have someone to put her in here with. Now, how many of you guys have actually seen a coyote before? All right, so you guys are somewhat familiar with them. There are plenty of coyotes in the US. However, unfortunately, around 400,000, or actually that number has been updated to about 500,000 coyotes at least are killed each year on average. That's around 1,100 coyotes a day, 1 coyote per minute. That's quite a few. Now, does anybody know how to tell the difference between a coyote and a wolf? Yeah, so generally their size, coyotes tend to be much smaller than your average wolf. Coyotes will be probably 60 pounds on the heavy end. Coyotes also tend to have much larger ears, a flatter skull, and a narrower snout as well. Whereas wolves have slightly angled skulls, and with your domesticated dogs, they have very, very angled skulls going down to their snout. So what a lot of people don't know about coyotes is that they're a very, very, very biologically adapted species. Which means that unfortunately a lot of the methods that are used to try to mitigate their population size through hunting and such really aren't that effective. And I'll talk about why that is really quickly. So coyotes do practice something known as compensatory refound. It's a biological trait that actually allows them to instinctually up their litter size if their population is being threatened or if they have an excess access to resources. So a lot of the time, or like most of the time, the way that coyotes are hunted is pretty inhumane. Coyote penning and coyote killing contests are a couple of the ways that people kill coyotes, just to name a few. It's very common. Coyote killing contests, essentially what ends up happening is the hunter or hunters will play a sound of a dying animal that would usually maybe be a prey source for the coyote or other dying or in pain coyote sounds. And they'll lure out the coyotes, and from a distance they will like riddle them with bullets. Sometimes even they will try to shoot them from the air, which really isn't even hunting at that point. It's just kind of like aerial assault. A lot of the time what happens is coyotes will run away, but they will be shot. So they will just suffer and slowly die over the next few days. A lot of these contests are actually monetarily compensated. So whoever kills the most coyotes essentially gets the prize. The problem with this is, again, the ability to instinctually up their litter size of their populations. It can go from having an average litter size of 4 to 5 to like 6 to 9. And actually the largest litter size on record was somewhere between 18 and 21 coyote pups. So their litter sizes do have the potential to be very, very large. So the second way that coyotes tend to be dealt with is coyote penning. Now, this is still legal in 15 of our states, I believe. What happens is coyote will be caught in a trap kind of similar to the one that